Alright everyone, here we are with War 4 against Mr. Black's Alliance. I will be taking in Human Torch, Quake, and Mr. Negative, a full science team. I have Path 3 in Section 1, Path 7 in Section 2, and then 2 mini-bosses on the boss island. So we have Tigra here on Path 3. She's my only fight on Path 3. However, I am taking the shared Clairvoyant on Path 1 through 3 in Section 1 as well. So this Tigra is rank 2. The node did change, so it's Power Focus 2, which means she'll get to SP2 really quickly, along with Hurt Locker, so I can't use the same special attack. Now, I'm not using Nova Flame here. I need it for a mini-boss fight later. But I am going to kind of cheese this with the Power Focus too. I have Resonate on, so in case I can, or just so that I can prevent some unblockable specials if that happens. But what you're going to see here is that I'm actually going to end up pushing her to SP2, and she's going to get it right at about 50% health, and then I'm just going to ignore trying to bait out the SP2. I'm just going to go ahead and take advantage of the reduced power gain, and down she's going to go. So it ends up being a pretty quick Human Torch fight. Now this Claire, I was assigned Human Torch with, but I decided to take it with Mr. Negative because I knew it was a safe fight as well. You'll see there I even hesitated and thought about just going in with Human Torch. But so some benefits here, I can get a buff on me, mainly through my heavy, and I can do the nullify damage from his signature ability. So you're going to see a pop-up of 3,000 to 4,000 damage while I've got the Fury up and I'm doing basic attacks. On top of that, because of this node being strike counter and me needing to use a special attack to reset it, I'm going to have the Bulwark passive, which is going to reduce a lot of the block damage through the fight. So I'm going to end this fight near 100% health. So it's a pretty smooth fight. 1 Fury, just because I didn't get to SP1 or didn't plan to use SP1 at the end of one of my combos. But that's the only Fury she's going to get this entire fight. Between the dot damage signature ability and me having so much dark energy, along with my basic attacks and the here and there nullify damage, she's gone down pretty easy for Mr. Negative. Probably would have been faster with Human Torch, but still, it's pretty much the same fight. Not really. I don't like the bleeds reducing my incinerate damage. Anyways, especially since I won't be using Nova Flame here, which you don't need it. But it was nice to kind of spread the love when it comes to fights. Alright, so we're moving on to our Section 2 fights. I've got this Ebony Maw on Spite and Rise to Power. I am going to use Human Torch here, but without the pre-fight. My game plan here is to stick to medium like mediums and never try to knock him down. Because of Spite, I'm going to gauge how quickly his health is dropping to figure out if I need to bait out any specials before continuing to do damage. So that's what you're going to see. What you're actually going to see is me just completely abuse him. I do land a few good parries because he throws light attack, but I also intercept him pretty well and avoid triggering dexterity with his heavy attack. So you see here we're already at 50%. He's not even at a bar and a half power. So I'm just going to keep pushing. I'm not going to bait. Probably going to push him to SP2. Still not going to bait. Just going to try and lay on the damage and just let him melt. Intercept it there, and I'm going to throw this SP2 and he's going to go down. So before he got to SP3, we knocked him out. So it was not a hard fight at all. All right, and that's actually my alliance mate Rain there, following along and placing some pre-fights, mainly giving me energy so that I can get to the fights and clear him before he goes out for the night. But I unfortunately had to quake 2 fights. Haven't quaked in a while, but thank God for that new practice mode, so I got to practice. We're just really quaking this to counter the node, not so much Punisher. Another champion you can use here is Magic. If you don't want to use a 5-star and you have a rank 3 Proxima Midnight, she'd actually work here pretty well due to the reduced offensive ability accuracy when blocking. So kinetic transference pretty much goes out the window with her. But yeah, here's a Quake and Shake fight. Next up is arguably my cleanest Mojo on node 47. So you guys have seen me take this before. I've got a little bit of an advantage because some Mr. Fantastic pre-fights have been placed, but I've done it without them, so it's just nice to have an added bonus. So building light energy, not using the heavy attack so that Fury doesn't cause degen. Baiting out SP1. You'll notice that I've been ending combos against Mojo with Mr. Negative with a light. It's just because of the spacing and the dexterity issues that I feel like I have more control of Mr. Negative to get out of range versus an XL champ. So you're probably going to expect to see that a lot. I see an advantage to sit here. I'm going to try and see if he wants to throw this SP1. He's not even coming at me, so I'm going to evade counter there. You could barely see it. The indestructible's gone. I land this with 10 dark energy, so 2 petrifies and 11 degen. And I'm just going to let him melt because he doesn't want to throw this SP1, and he threw it there, but he died. So like I said, 100% health, probably my cleanest one. Finish that so quick that we're gonna go right into this bishop fight with our combat regen, and it's just a Quake and Shake fight. So again, we're just bypassing the node here and the update, the buff update to bishop. There are a few counters you can take here, or use here. But since a Quake was already headed to Hazard Shift Mini, just made sense, or not Quake, since someone with a Quake was already headed to Hazard Shift Mini, it just made more sense for me to take it and knock it out. I did put on half suicides for this fight so that it did not take near as long as it would without. So it's gonna be, I think, just shy of 2 minutes long, which I think without is 2.5. Maybe less. Might be 2:15 versus a bishop. Moving on to our last fight of the war, this unduped Kitty Pryde on Hazard Shift. And the reason I make that a keynote is because I'm using Human Torch. And what that means is I can use a miss counter without fear of giving her too much power when I'm hitting her while she's invisible. And I'd rather throw Human Torch here if we can, instead of just throwing like a Guillotine 2099, because the Incinerate phase is what starts first, so we can prevent ourselves from getting cornered very early. So all you're going to see here is me medium, light, medium, bait, block, beta, heavy. There's going to be one combo she finishes into my block that I retaliate slowly to, and I get myself parried. Indestructible or invulnerability boost saved us. I am going to block all of the fire breath from an SP1. I threw that SP1 thinking that ranged attacks wouldn't trigger Hazard Shift, but as you can see, I got a poison. So I'm adjusting in this fight for that later. She's back in the Incinerate phase, so I can start laying back onto her after she throws heavies. Trying to bait out this SP1. There it is, building up smolders and temp. She's back in the poison and decide to throw this SP1 into her block to eat up the timer and keep her against her wall. She's being passive here, which is good. Waited out that poison timer. Now we're back in Incinerate. Didn't mean to intercept her in there, so caught myself off guard a little bit. I'm glad my temperature was high enough to not miss. And down she goes. So it was only a rank 2 Kitty Pryde, so it would have gone probably one more cycle of poison and Incinerate, but still pretty smooth war for me. Probably my cleanest. BG2 only died one time. I think to their 2 last I checked. I didn't see the end of the war. However, we ended up winning this war 11-4. So we finally brought our death count down to something a little bit more reasonable. But again, just like prior seasons, our goal for shooting for top 3, which I don't know is possible now, we want less than 3. So still got a lot to work on. Happy with that performance, or at least headed in the right direction. And we're back in the top 20, not the top 10. So hopefully the next couple of wars can get us there. But thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you at the next one.